So welcome back, everyone. I just want to introduce our panelists. Please welcome Faison from Engaging Networks, Molly from Zuri Group, Mon from National Trust for Historic Preservation, Henry of Do Big Things for a very timely panel discussion that explores the common challenges and strategic opportunities involved in approaching a technology roadmap.
We already got a round of applause, so, thank you, Susan. All right, folks, well, we are really, really excited to have you all here. I know it's late in the day and the bar's already getting set up, so this is that time of the day. We got that slot. But we are really, really excited today to talk about the future of technology and future-proofing your tech stack. I will be moderating today's panel, but I am joined by some incredible folks. And first of all, I just want to take a quick second to celebrate the diversity of this panel. Can we get a quick round of applause for that? Thank you. Faison Farouk here. I am about 90 days in tomorrow at Engaging Networks, but I've been in the nonprofit software space, been on the vendor side, been in worked for NGOs, and have worked in politics as well. But it's not about me today. I am joined by the incomparable Molly Kelly, right here, the president of Zuri Group, who has an extremely decorated career spanning over 30 years. I'm not doing any age shout-outs, but incomparable career, has onboarded so many of you all and helped you be successful in your usage of your platform. Some fun facts that I've learned about Molly recently include the fact that you were a class clown and a proud mascot, but also that Molly is a decorated storyteller and has won awards, including the Moth Award. So that's quite incredible.
Story Slam, yep.
Story Slam. I'm also joined by Henry McKembe, who I've had the pleasure of knowing for several years now. Henry, in 2013, was named one of the folks to watch out for. So here we are. 10 years later, we're watching out for you, Henry, on this panel. Henry is the CEO of Do Big Things, and we're so excited to have him here. In his off time, Manchester United fans here? He's a big Manchester United fan, so there's that.
Also the Spirits, Washington Spirits.
All right, and the Terps, so local as well. I'm also joined, last but certainly not least, by Mon, who I absolutely have grown to love and so excited to have here. She has been in the Engaging Networks community for over 15 years and is currently at the National Trust for Historic Preservation, where she runs digital and the database management. So in her spare time, I've learned that she loves baking pies and will soon be potentially featured on maybe like Great British Bake Off. I'm thinking let's go ahead and nominate you for that. But she's also an incredible entrepreneur. So I'm excited to get this conversation going. Before we get started, what I really want everyone to do is just take a quick moment and when you were a kid, think about what you thought the future would be. For me, that looked like the Jetsons. I always thought that was going to be the future, but here we are. So keep that in mind as we get going today. Think about what you thought the future would look like here in 2023 as we are in the future. Quick show of hands in the room. How many of you are currently using more than 2 tech stack? More than 2. I think everybody should be raising their hand right now, right? More than 2. More than 3? Don't be shy. All right. More than 5. More than 5. All right. Got a bunch of you. All right. So lots of tools. How do those tools talk to one another? Are they talking effectively? And do you have the right staff in place? These are some of the things we're going to really be touching on today. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with our first question. And this goes out to any of the panelists, but what are the current trends that you're seeing in the nonprofit tech sector? It's an open-ended question. Mic is yours.
Since I'm the only one not smiling in my picture, I guess I'll take the first question. First of all, thank you all for joining us and thank you for sticking around. I know it's a late hour and we know that we're the second to last panel before the bar, so appreciate everybody making time. In terms of technology, in terms of trend, I think we're always looking for what is the sexiest thing that's happening. Obviously, Graham already covered AI earlier today, and we'll dive into that a little bit, but I think one of the things that is unsexy but remains true is integration, right? How are your tools that you're using talking to each other? And then the second thing I like to think about is something that I've claimed to be medium data, right? And what I mean by that is, do you have enough data that is actionable and actually allows you to make decisions and move your program forward, right? So I think those are two of the top trends on the tech side. But then on the staffing side is like, do you have the folks required to run those tools appropriately, either as a combination of in-house staff or as, to took my own horn, consultants to help you do that correctly, right? So when I'm looking at trends, those are some of the things that I'm paying attention to at the moment.
I think in the industry as well, we all see that there's consolidation in the industry with the platforms that we can choose. Maybe it's just late stage capitalism. I don't know, but it's a big movement. And sometimes I've had clients that, we got off that platform only to find out the year later that the new one we chose got bought by that same person again. And now we're back where we were from the start. So that consolidation does affect us in what tools that we're using. Also, the consolidation tends to sometimes beat up the small ones. So maybe you found another solution that you purchased that you're working with, and they just can't make it in that space anymore, and they go away. I've had clients are like, we made this huge decision. We chose this integration tool. We've been using it for a year, and now they're out of business. And what are we going to do? All of our systems and processes are planned on that. So when you're planning, of course, your entire stack, these are considerations and things that we have to deal with, this consolidation in the marketplace. Now, you guys are all here for a reason, mostly, right? We're here with Engaging Networks because Engaging Networks is privately owned. I'm just going to throw that out there, right? They're not traded on the stock market. We know that they're not answering to their stockholders. That's not their number one priority. And I think, we're here for a reason. We're comfortable with that kind of environment and that kind of product. But it's definitely something that affects us.
Yeah, I'm going to talk on the client side, and Molly and I were just talking about this earlier. So one of the new things that probably just popped up is, I guess, proper documentation, because, as a nonprofit, you'll see folks come and go, and new technologies being brought in and out, but, how do you properly document that so that when someone comes back in, is it like a 300,000-page manual, or are you using stuff like Scribio for video documentation tools?
I can't speak about this topic at all. Consolidation. I'm not going to name any names. You all can look at my LinkedIn later. I think that one of the things that is so incredible to be here is knowing that as we step forward into the future, 97% retention rate, customers are happy, because you all are our informants, right? You're our shareholders. It's not those folks. So I just want to give a huge shout out to the entire Engaging Networks team, of which I'm so happy to be a part of. Go ahead.
I was just going to make a joke.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Please.
I'm like, why
it's
do I
late
do
in the
this?
day.
That person only had 20 years experience in the business. And she's looking at the future, which is sitting right here. She didn't think the future would look like this, but we got to do what we got to do. Anyway, go ahead.
No, well, you know what? We all looked a little different, but
Okay.
they were good picks. So one of the things that, is top of mind as organizations are evaluating and starting to think about future-proofing, I want to touch on a few things. How does an organization's values inform their tech decisions, and how should it? How do you balance that as
Like
industry leaders, as a client leader?
Yeah, I think it's I think it's very important. I think where an organization spends its money says a lot about its values, and a lot of what they're spending their money on is technology, right? So I think picking a partner that is both, focused on innovation, but also focused on terms of supporting the community as a whole, creating a space for learning and shared ideas, I think is important. So really, I think when you're talking about a place to make a statement about your values, technology is such a place, right? And as Faizan alluded to, some of the consolidation in the marketplace are forcing more and more organizations to use those technology picks as a value statement to where they want to see the technology going. But also because we need to have a healthy ecosystem, right? When I first got started, emailing was the only thing, but now we're talking about so many data points to be able to run effective fundraising programs, effective organizing programs, and now we're going into multilingual programs and that kind of stuff, right? So really paying attention, using this technology as a value statement, I think is something that is a must these days. And when you're evaluating, it's not just about the X's and O's, sorry for the business analysts in the room, but it's also about kind of the ethical decision that you're trying to say and what you're trying to say about the progressive space as a whole.
Absolutely. Well, practice what you preach, right? So I think that, one of the things that you touched on, Henry, is data. So what role does integrations play in future-proofing of technology? How is data improving? What kind of future enhancements do you think are happening in that industry?
Yeah, for sure. I think those of us who have been in the business for a couple of decades, we used to try to get organizations to all use one CRM, and we try to make the event person use the same CRM as the advocacy person and as the field organizers, right? I think we've moved away from that perspective, right? I think a lot of organizations are following best-of-breed approach, if not because they're following it intentionally, but also because the event person wants to use their platform and the fundraising person wants to use their platform. And somehow all that data has to mesh. So I think the first thing about a tech stack and future-proofing your tech stack is really thinking about data freedom, right? And by that are all the tools that you're using allowing you to pull data and push data to it so you can run the appropriate program. So one of the things that we've seen is organizations just using a data layer first as the first thing they do and really focusing on data warehousing and using tools like Engaging Networks that allow you to pull the data via API and store it in there and use other tools that you can then pull the data from and push. So part of future-proofing the data is really, of any organization, your tech stack, part of future-proofing your tech stack is really freeing up your data, making sure that you own it and you have access to it, and then you can have the tools to push it to any of the platform that you're looking to use.
And that's cheaper than it used to be. I mean, years ago, if you said that to a group of mid-level nonprofits, it'd be like, that's for dreamers, right? A data warehouse? Like, no way. But all these tools have come to, they've come to points where they're mass marketed now, and it's much more affordable and easier to set up and use than they once were. So we can really achieve a lot of things now that we couldn't just 7-8 years ago. Were a lot more difficult for people.
Yeah, and I would say if you really want to have a 360 view of your supporters, your donor, you really need to have the data from every single organization. And you can sit down and try to beat down the silos, but I've personally given up. I think the silos are good, let the event people focus on the event, let the organizers focus on organizers, and then just bring the data in, mesh it together, and then push it back out in the way that people need to see it. So by really having that data freedom, you really get to look at your supporter from a holistic view, and that's really, really important. And you can then communicate with them. If you go back to Graham's earlier section about creating segments and cohorts, I think is the word that he used correctly, right? Clusters, sorry. I was clearly paying attention to that presentation. Right, the more you can put that kind of data in the same place, the more accurate your clusters can be, and the more you can push the envelope with things like accessible intelligence in the future.
So what does that mean, though, if you're a decision maker and you're deciding, the people come to you and they have a certain software they want to use. They went rogue, certain division, and they went rogue, and they're using something.
That's never happened, never.
You're saying that's okay, and maybe that is okay. You guys know whether that's okay in your world or not. But one proof that you can say is whether it's okay or not is can we get the data? How can we get all the data? Can we get the right data? Can we actually, let's say, edit into the presentation layer to add additional data to that data? Because some systems might be really easy. They can click, 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 but you can't put anything into the presentation layer, and so you're never going to get really that tracking code that you need, or something else that you really actually need to append to that data. So in making those decisions, if you're going to look for future proofing, be like, yes, you can go rogue, if you can, as Henry's saying, but it has to abide by this list of things. It has to have an open API. It has to allow us to do something on the presentation layer to control brand or control source coding or control something, right? So coming up with a list of that so that that system can actually last into the future for you, for your team.
So I'm going to speak on the client side, so might be a plugin for some of the other partners here. So I've used the data warehouse of Fracture to pull down data, and I've also used the Corner Shop WordPress tool. I don't know if anyone from Corner Shop here to also push the data. So
Fruits and vegetables.
yes. Speak about Rogue. So with a different client, we've used like a photo contest tool that obviously EN doesn't have, but we've used it. And then from there, we used Zapier to push it into WordPress. From WordPress, used the Gravity Form plugin to EN. And so just that stack is like 4, I think. But it gets the data there. Then you could do your segmentations, your marketing automations, your conditional content emails, and feel like they were still part of like an Engage Networks campaign.
I think I want to touch on what Molly said because it's really important, because we had a client once where we went in and did a communication audit, and it turned out that because they were using different emailers across the organization, some of their supporters got 27 emails per day. Per day. Right, and this is a membership.
They donated every time. So.
And so what ended up happening is they ended up being marked as spam by their own membership, who were paying some of them millions of dollars to be part of the organization, right? So if you have a tool set, if you have tools, again, to Molly's point, where you can pull in the data, it is very easy to flag that such and such person is getting 27 emails from us, and that needs to stop, right? You don't need to then hire a consultant like me to come and help you fix it. So again, to that list, it has very important consequences to the nonprofits, right? So I think I just wanted to put a finer point on that.
27. Yeah.
27.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this kind of goes into a different area, but I think the elephant in the room has been, ChatGPT, AI, Graham's controversial question earlier, right? Can all of this be done in a way that it replaces humans? Well, I know where a lot of us stand in this, and I think that it's all about that balance. And what I think is brilliant about the way that Graham's thinking about accessible intelligence is that no, it's not a replacement, right? We still need that human intelligence, but how can we leverage artificial intelligence in a way to help inform campaigns? So my segue now is into staff. How are organizations feeling as it relates to their staff? Are new roles needed? This is an open-ended question to all of you, but really I want to, show of hands if anybody has a specific problem right now that relates to the AI revolution. Let's talk about staffing needs.
So I have some clients that I've been working with for the same client for 20 some years. So I'm their institutional knowledge, really. I don't know why, I don't go anywhere. I'm always at the same place. But anyway, we can talk about that privately. It's a lot of time, my personal issues. But anyway, and so I'm there when, oh man, that organization is really cooking this year. They have that great staff right now. They've got 3 people, and boy, they are taking everything to the next level. They're really doing great. then you don't hear from them for a few months, and then next time you hear from them, they're like back at stage one again. Like, no, what are you talking about? GDPR. You know, like, they don't understand anything, and it's because they lost the key people, and you know, they lost all that institutional knowledge, and they're back to square one. So how do you future-proof that? It kind of goes to what Mom was saying about, like, you know, back in the day, we'd write these giant, you'd have that person we were talking about out there 2 weeks before they left, after they gave their resignation. You need to write down everything you do and put it in a manual that no one will ever read, or used to get tossed in the corner because we'd print it out. But now we have better ways of being organized, and I think it's something that we often don't pay attention to at work because we're just trudging on every day, and we don't take the time to make sure we have a good internal documentation system and make it easy. Video is the best way now. Don't write the manual, right? Just have people record, this are our operating procedures, but making sure it's centralized, making sure that that doesn't keep happening to your organization every 2-3 years. That we trained this person, they became amazing, and then they left. And now we're back as an organization to square one.
And definitely don't wait until they give their notice, because they don't want to share all of those things at that point most of the time. So, Mon, I thought one of the things that you did that with Viral Sweep that you just touched on was a great example of leveraging a new, very specific niche tech, but then incorporating that back into leveraging your own platform, Engaging Networks, to do that better. What were the lessons learned on that use case in terms of how and what kind of buy-in did you all need to go rogue like that?
So just like what Molly said earlier, like, you need to sort of figure out exactly what the fields are that you want moved, because I think when I first pushed it into the plugin, I didn't really put in the EA tracking IDs, and then I had to, like, at the back end, like, kind of fix it, and you guys all know you have to only do that to the API. So something like that would be my first lesson, is exactly look at the reporting tool that you want, like, what is the reporting tool gonna look like, and then test. But the buy-in was that it was something different that we wanted to do, that Engaging Networks wasn't EN wasn't the tool for it, but we wanted to still use EN for marketing automation and the email segmentation. So just that alone, but we got about 22,000 votes and like over 6,000 pets already submitted in less than a month. So 22,000 new subscribers. So
That's awesome. From a staffing perspective, it's very interesting because I feel like when we first started back in the days, the digital person did the HTML, right? And they did email writing, they did the photoshopping. We were doing some videos at the time. We're doing some database management, I believe, as well, right? What did we do? Anyways, so as it evolved, now folks have like a writing department and a production team and a data team, right? And so I think in terms of future-proofing your stack is really looking at your, organizational needs and trying to figure out what you need. I think depending on the size of the organizations, you can have individual roles for all those things, or you can have a mix of FTE and consultants. Like, right, do you really need an in-house database person? Or can you rely on Molly because she's not going anywhere? And you really need that institutional knowledge to be ever present as long as you can sign a contract, right? And so I think it's really, you have to, at some point during last cycle, there's some people that had the title jobs of Slack organizers, right? Because all they were doing was organizing communities on Slack to take action. So as we evolve, right, as new tools come in, we really have to rethink how, we staff our team. Like, the new crop of folks coming in are great storytellers, but are absolute shit when it comes to technology. Sorry, right? And so it's like, how do we take advantage of those skill set? Because again, they've been consuming stories in different formats so they can tell those stories, but also we still need somebody who does data somewhere in the organization, and how do we marry those? So really taking a look at what the folks that are coming in are bringing in, what the organization needs, and kind of marrying, not being afraid of retooling job description and organizational structure to get you there. How AI plays into it depends to the extent of which your organization wants to adopt AI. I think it would behoove every organization to be on the front foot on this, right, and really think through what their policies are, right? What do they want to add to OpenAI? When do they want to build their own private LLM, right, model? And all of those options are available to you, and then that will affect your staffing plan. Because if you build your own LLM and you're not really using the open source one, you need somebody somebody slightly more technical to be able to do that, right? Either as a consultant or as an FTE. If you decide to go the open source route, you might just need someone who knows how to tweak those questions so you can get the best value out of that, right? So you're not necessarily replacing someone, but you may be changing somebody's job description, and then you have to then change what does those KPI look like, how do you hold them accountable, and what do their review looks like, right? And it's not gonna be what it looked like for us when we got started a while back. So I don't think you should be afraid of AI. You should be thinking about it proactively, and you should be thinking about how are we gonna have our staff leveraging it and taking advantage of it so we can push our engagement to a higher level.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it made me think, when I was a kid, the future to me was we'd play with like communicators. They were just pieces of cardboard, like Star Trek. We just thought that would be the coolest thing if we had those. Which it's a cell phone, right? We have them now, and the tap thing was the coolest. In all the time of thinking of being around nonprofits, there was this one client I was working for a long time ago, back on Kinterrasphere, if any of you remember Kinterrasphere. It was Amnesty. And I'm going to drop his name because I think he's amazing. He's actually at the Nature Conservancy still. Shiloh Stark was at Amnesty. And they included me on their tech team because we were building out all the front end stuff of their planning for their year end. And he had these spreadsheets that just blew my mind in the thinking and the planning of who they were targeting, how they were segmenting, who was going to see a picture of Joan Baez, and who was going to see a photo of Sting, and how we needed to do it all this planning, great planning. And I was like, wow, these guys really have their shit together, right? And their reporting structure was amazing on their campaigns and everything, and I was just blown away. That was really the only client who I had ever seen in a whole bunch of years have that much planning. So we can't all hire Shiloh, right? So let's pretend it's 2025 and we're on accessible intelligence, right? It's kind of doing some of that stuff that like Shiloh had in his head that him and his team had planned with all their different codes. They had like hundreds of different codes for each segmentation, and they were doing it on the URL parameter. And so we were tasked with manually coding all the swapping of this stuff that our systems do for us now, but we were manually doing that based on URL parameter. So it's 2025, we're all on accessible intelligence. Machine learning is pitching in now. So we don't all need a Shiloh, maybe, right? Now, because the system is thinking and doing that segmentation and deciding which image, whether it should be Sting or Joan Baez, then who do we need on our team, right? We don't need 10 Shilohs, we need who? I don't know, you guys decide, but that's kind of in thinking about like that future-proofing your team and where will we need to be, because this stuff's coming fast, right? These changes are coming really fast now, so we do have to kind of start thinking about that.
Yeah, the future's here. So real quick, to you all, are there roles within your organizations that you've hired within the last year, 2 years that speak to some of what Molly's touching on here? Anybody? Anybody want to share? All right, so we aren't thinking about this maybe. All right, Gordon.
Hires on the machine learning data modeling side, data science.
Data science.
Yeah. Data science people aren't cheap. Well, it's something about thinking about who you're going to need, right, down the line. Then again, awesome fundraisers shouldn't be either, right? Yeah.
That touches on a whole nother thing, which is the average salaries of nonprofits. But we're not going to go there right now. We're not going to go there right now.
But I think, if I can, I think I just want to emphasize that, like, the hires don't need to be tech hires, right? Like, I just want to emphasize that. They need to be the hire that work for your organization. ROI has data scientists, so you don't have to. You can just sign a contract with them, right? And you can focus on maybe having a TikTok influencer in-house that produces content on a regular basis and is able to tell the story in a way that works with our, ROI's data machines team. Like, right, so I just want to emphasize that. Think about a holistic approach to staffing, not necessarily everybody that you need to have on an FTE payroll.
I think that's a really, really great point. Because, Gen Z is here. Everybody's house file is getting older. It is a fact. And so, how are we going to leverage TikTok? How are we going to leverage, just being an influence writ large? LinkedIn has completely changed, I think. LinkedIn is starting to become more of a personal platform. That's what's getting higher views. It's doing that little consolidation, right? At the top, you got the little emojis and then people drop down. So how are organizations really gonna incorporate some of this, which it doesn't cost money you obviously have to pay those folks, but having an influencer on staff. So all of us are of a certain age range that is not, I don't have TikTok. But I want to know.
I'm addicted, so I don't think it's an age range thing.
Okay, all right.
You clearly haven't
For
seen
me-
some of the cooking shows on TikTok, bro.
Listen, I'm not willing to download it yet because I know I'll get it hooked to it, and so I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So, quick show of hands. Are you all utilizing TikTok? Are you utilizing Reels? How are you then converting those folks? All right, I love this. Anybody out of those show of hands want to share a really great story of how this future tech is influencing your donor file, your engagement?
So we've got, some of you may know that Meta has an in-platform, man, I am congested, allergies, an in-platform lead generation tool, right? It's gotten more expensive, it's more saturated space. TikTok has the same thing. It's in-platform, it's email sign up, it's an incredible tool, and we're running it with a few clients that have seen really, really cost-effective leads generated in the platform. So it's not just a brand tool in the way that I think a lot of people believe it is. It's got a lot of potential for conversion. It's got a ton of potential for lead generation. And it's certainly, if you're looking for an alternative, it's worth exploring. And now I'm done talking for the night because my voice is toast.
So don't ask him any questions.
No questions. Anybody else? I love that though. I think it's important to acknowledge that data isn't just there to stay and that it can be leveraged. So we're kind of headed toward the end of our discussion today. The really important question that I think does need to be asked is, what happens if leadership completely changes at an organization or with one of your vendors? What does that have as an effect in an org's program?
Henry?
I guess I could speak from a place where I've been in several nonprofits already where they've, they've had replacements and even like the CEO. And as long as I think you have a strong development marketing team, or even like your CDO, CMO, I think you can still keep that same, fundraising tool or database of record that you have to maintain. Because I must say, you obviously you could advocate for it, because if your CEO does change, you know, they also want to do, you know, keep the lights on. But what we're doing right now is we're actually having a technology audit because we do have a new CEO, and so that tech audit is done by a third party, and that helps really like validate why you have the tools that you have.
Yeah, we have 5 minutes left, so just 2 quick answers to this is internally, I think one of the things that you have to continue doing is making sure that your tech stack is answerable to organizational business objectives. I know that's a lot of jargon, but that's how you future tech proof is if you can tie it directly to organizational business objective. And on a vendor side, I think you need to have good lawyers, right? You can put a lot of things into contracts. If you can think of it, it can get into a contract. So if part of that is like, if you have change of leadership, we want 6 months to bail, have your lawyer put it down and have their lawyer say no, and then they can duke it out. They make enough money and they're smart enough to figure it out.
I like that one. Total shift. What are each of you most excited about for the future? You can have it be like 5 words.
I still am hoping they can fix that fat-free potato chip thing that they failed at a couple years ago. Because that was always a dream, like, what? You can eat that and not get fat? So I'm hoping they fix that. Yeah, exactly. Hoping they fix that. But I'll think of something business-wise while they go. That was what came to me first, though.
On the personal front, the U.S. national women's soccer team, I'm really looking forward to some of the players that we have up and coming. I'm very excited about it. On the business front, something very unsexy, tighter integration amongst the tools that we use, just better integration across the board. I'm a developer from background, so.
Personal front, trying to get an electric Vespa, so maybe that's going to be a feature in my world. And then maybe a Zapier integration. So,
I'm working on that already. Yes. I already have somebody assigned working on it within.
perfect.
Yeah, playing around with it. Okay.
That wasn't planned at all.
Wow, that was not even
It
planned.
wasn't planned, but I love it. Well,
Yeah.
Jeez. I'm most excited about being at Engaging Networks, folks. No, real talk, I really am. I've spent decades in the nonprofit sector as it relates to tech, and I think this is the right place. It has a perfect balance of that family feel. That's really important to me. So exciting front on the personal end is I'm family planning with my husband and I. We already have a son, and so that's something that's on the horizon that I'm very excited about. And professionally, I've already answered it. But I don't have the next slide ready. It's to contact us. I will go change that. And so what I want is for you all to continue to help inform and guide us, right? You are our shareholders. Continue to give that feedback to us, because that's what we want to then be able to build tools for you that are going to be scalable for the future. And I'm not talking about just, next 2 years, but next 10 years, next 20 years. So that's what I'm most excited about. And I just want to thank all of our panelists today for joining, for taking time out of your busy schedules. Thank you, Ben, for switching the slides. And yeah, looking forward to the next couple of days. Yes, Clint, please. We all hand you our
I'm sort of giddy with excitement about something that's happening in a couple weeks, which is Engaging Networks is rolling out a donor advised fund widget through a back-end integration with a company called Chariot. Chariot did all the hard work we would never do to create relationships with all of the donor advised fund groups around the country. And it'll soon be a built-in feature for any Engaging Networks client to set up a donor advised fund widget that has sort of a similar to PayPal experience, but much more frictionless than what some organizations have done so far. And there's $250 billion sitting in donor advised funds, which by law has to go to charities. And we want you guys to be the charities that grab that money. So we're trying to make it easy for you. So that's something that I'm excited about, and there's nothing else on our program about this, so I wanted to seize this opportunity.
Thank you. All right, folks. John, you want to do one too? All right, I didn't know it was open mic hour. All right, but after this one, we're done. All right, thanks so much.
Well, I'm really excited about what's coming in 2024, which is the brand new peer-to-peer 3 module. So more about that tomorrow.
John, that was the shortest I've ever heard you speak, and I appreciate it. All right, thanks everybody. Have a great rest of your day.